Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Sunday Podcast, presented by sportsshoes.com. I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
This podcast is all about elite distance running in the UK.
We're here to give you all the latest news updates around the sport,
as well as weekly interviews with athletes and coaches.
Stay up to date by following us on Instagram and X at Sunday Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel too, where we post athlete workout videos, shoe reviews and more.
Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Right, hello everyone, welcome back. The Olympics has well and truly kicked off. We've seen our first distance title taken and also the women's 100 metre final as well. But Matt and I are going to get into, day 2 and 3 of the Paris Games and kind of bring you up to date on all the action. How are you, mate? You been enjoying it?
Oh boy, have I been enjoying it, mate. The party's got started, really, hasn't it? I mean, there's been so much going on. I was just saying the other day, obviously I'm off to Paris on Monday and to go watch a bit of the action, and I kind of just regret, now the games have started, not getting enough tickets for different sports, more athletic sessions, but just, I don't know, at the time I was buying my ticket, I thought they were going to be really hard to get hold of, paid a premium for it. This was months ago, in March and stuff like that, so I wasn't really thinking in that mindset, but just a bit envious of everyone out there who's soaking up. Got a lot of Oxford lads gone out there, and they're there just 10 days, mate. They're going to just about every session going, and good on them, because I just think the stadium, I mean, Europe just do it right, don't they? I think for us as fans as well, whenever the Olympics is in a European city like it was in London and Paris, it's obviously so much easier for us to watch as well, and I think that's what's so special, is we can consume it all, whereas Tokyo, the time zone was whack. Rio, the time zone was awful as well. So all these other sports, like the BMXing, the mountain biking, you just didn't really get a chance to watch because they were just on at such obscure times, and you would just watch the athletics because that's the only thing you were dedicated enough to stay up for and stuff. Whereas, you could just consume it all, which is a 10 out of 10. So, mate, I'm all good. I've just, raced home from night of 5,000 at Wimbledon. Some fantastic racing there, to be honest with you, on the mic. So, yeah, Dav Jones, by the way, winning that men's race, the real deal, I think. Such a smooth mover. So, shout out to James C. I'm sure he's listening. He's got a bit of talent on his hands there. And Georgie Grech winning the women's race as well in a meet record, so 2 meet records, so 10 out of 10 racing.
Yeah, mate, he has on Dav Jones, and I think he'll be listening as well. He used to tell me he listened anyway, so we'll see about that. But he's a very, very good talent, very good young talent indeed. Right, should we get straight into King Chep?
Let's do it, big man.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys have all seen it. We doubted the big man, didn't we? I think I'm sure someone said it on comms as well after the race. I think just the way he went to the marathon and it didn't quite click. I think everyone thought, that's it, Cheptegei's done. Yeah. But then he comes back and he shows us why he's got the world record in the 5K and the 10K.
He's underrated, mate. And one of the reasons he's underrated is because I think from a world record holder, we expect domination. Me and you, especially me and you, we grew up in an era where Bekele was he was the world record holder. He was the Olympic champion, the world champion, and he dominated. And then of course Farah came along, and Farah dominated. He'd go into a Diamond League, he'd win on the rare chance, he'd win it. He'd go into a Olympic Games, World Championships, he'd win it. So it was always a safe bet. Whereas Cheptegei, since his world record, he hasn't been that dominant outside of major championships. He hasn't won many Diamond Leagues, convincingly. He doesn't do that many, to be fair. But then, we've seen him do rogue stuff, goes to the marathon, and you almost do forget about him. But the rumor has it, apparently he's come out and said he's in world record shape. He said 26:43 was easy for him. It's just, he ran that so well. I mean, I said yesterday to you that he ran like a prime time Farah. You were hating on that comment.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a stretch personally. But then I don't know. I think I do look. I must admit, and I'm sure people listening probably think this about what I say. I do look back at past athletics with kind of rose-tinted glasses, and I'm sure in 5 years' time, if we're still doing this podcast, mate, I'll be like, there's nothing on Cheptegei back in the day. So I'll be saying exactly the same thing. So I must admit that, but it was a unbelievable performance from him, and I think just the amount of athletes who were kind of throwing things at him, or not necessarily at him, just at the race in
Yeah,
general
at the
over
race.
over the last kind of 2K makes
Yeah.
it impressive.
Yeah, I mean, as the race was unfolding, I just saw Cheptegei, like out of all the big guns, he was so far, he was the furthest back. And he was just running so smart. He was soaking it all up. He was just conserving so much energy. And like even Grant Fisher like was making bold moves. Was it about 4K where Kajelcha's like pinging off the front for about the fourth time already? And and Fisher actually there was a point. I think it was Kajelcha Aragari. Barrega's starting to like decide whether he wants to go with it and do any more work, and he's dropping back through the pack. And Fisher's like was a little bit isolated, and he like was closing up on them. And I was like, this
Mm,
is nuts. Like Fisher is not like yes, he raced smart, but he did make some bold moves, some brave moves in that race, and I think he fully deserved that bronze medal because I mean, really, he deserved the silver. Aragari comes out of nowhere, um, but Cheptegei on the other hand, like in contrast, like and the reason I say it was primetime Farah, like he he was just so calm, and he just didn't get wrapped up in anything at all until
mm.
that kind of final kilometer, and even then, like surges to the front at 500 to go when everyone's like getting antsy and not knowing whether they're going to kick and when they're going to kick. And basically everyone in that race was just waiting for someone to go to the front and start the kick. And Cheptegei just did it all from the front, held men off. And like, it's just 10 out of 10 performance. And like, for me, I mean, I was much more emotionally attached to Kajelcha. Like, for me, Kajelcha made the race. He made that one of the greatest 10,000s I've ever seen, if not the best 10,000. I mean, Bekele and Tedeschi back in '09. Is probably still my favorite race ever. But like, it's yeah. I mean, Kijochi, like the way he was just throwing things around, pinging off the front. I was just like, when was the last time we saw a race like that? Like, we just
Mm.
haven't. It was so refreshing. People were going with it. People were surging. I was just like, this is 10 out of 10. When those three Ethiopians hit the front, I was like, oh my God, this is just a dream come true because
But the
that's
10K, the 10K is the best event, and me and you have always said that. I think like when it's run well, when we get a race like that, 10,000 meters at a championship, you can't beat it. You
yeah,
actually can't beat it.
100%. And shout out, I mean, I watched it on Eurosport because honestly, I saw 25 laps of the track. I just don't trust the
Mm.
BBC. I mean, they cut away from shit in the morning with from the 1500s. Luckily, I never even bothered with the BBC. I was like, I'm not watching any inch of BBC coverage because I just don't trust them. Whereas Eurosport, I was like, I'm going to get 25 laps of this race, and I did. They didn't cut away once, and I was just mesmerized. And it split screened occasionally, but I can cope with that.
That's what and all we ever ask for is split screen, don't we? Like that's the minimum, I think.
To
You
be
know.
fair to Eurosport, they split screened the 10,000 race just with two different camera angles. So we had a close
Mm.
up of the pack and we had like an overhead shot of the. So if you haven't already, I mean, if you haven't, wake up because you just need to invest in Discovery Plus for the month because it's the only way to consume the Olympics for me.
There you go, consumer advice.
Well, I just
But
think the BBC, like it's just chops and changes all
oh,
over.
it's been it's not been good, has it? I believe it's out of their control, but obviously, I think that you could do more to get a better license or whatever you need to ensure that it is in your control. You know.
Yeah, like just have like it's 2024. I should be able to click on watch athletics. Like they used to have a thing called the red button, and that used to be pretty good. But seeing like obviously you've got different things on iPlayer, I do get that. But like tomorrow night, well, I mean the swimming, the final night in the pool, that's gonna clash with these men's 1500 semis. So yeah, don't risk it, people. If you're listening, just go get your Discovery Plus and listen to that.
Yeah. Couple of other kind of bits to wrap up in that 10K. Then obviously, like we both think Chepsgar is phenomenal. So well done for any of you who predicted him as well in the prediction contest because that will be kind of first one ticked off for some
Crap,
people.
yeah. We should have looked. I wonder how many predicted it was.
I don't think many when I was browsing before.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I mean, yeah, obviously I put Kajelcha, didn't I? Because I was just so like, yeah. And then when he went to the front and stuff, he was looking so good. He was just doing a bit too much. He was being a bit reckless at
yeah,
times. But like,
Well, I
yeah,
put Kip Limo, and obviously he um he kind of almost tried to do what Cheptegei was doing, and it looked like he was actually coming into the home
he got
straight. He was
carved at
moving
100
quite
as well.
well.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he just went straight backwards. But Cheptegei was 28% of you guys,
Yeah,
so I guess that is a fair amount to be
that
fair.
is a fair amount. I just want to say as
On the
well
kind of
about
exit polls. So
interesting point. Like I was watching yesterday, and I was just thinking, like, someone like Grant Fisher, like amazing. Finally gets the medal, but it just shows you how long you have to be at the top four in endurance races to like finally get your chance and break through. Like this guy's been such a nearly man, and like he's been running outrageous times now for the last 3, 4 years, and even then, like only now has he just like got on the podium. But
yeah, and
I
not
mean,
even that. Like you got to remember, this guy's a sub 4 miler in high school. So like obviously it's a different level. Like not everyone makes it from then, but in terms of like his age group,
look at that
he's
period.
been like one of the best in the world since he was 16, 17.
Yeah,
Like in terms of for his level at the time,
I think he was in high school in 2014, right? And then went to college
Yeah,
15 to 19 or 15 to 18 or something, or the 14 to 18, something like that. Um, but yeah, and like he was like top in the NCAA, and he's just had like such a steady career, and it's just like it's amazing to see, to be honest. I think it's a big boost. You're looking at him being,
and obviously Nico Young as well.
I mean, that was
Like
huge. I mean, what's
yeah,
scary, I can see this mag posted it, the sort of quote from Nico Young's interview. He's not going to be, by the time 2032 rolls around in Australia at the Olympic Games, still won't be
mm,
30.
yeah.
Like, I think in LA, he's going to be 25, 26 in LA. Like, it's like, what?
But then again, the sport is obviously. I hope he is still in the game then. But like, we know what the sport's like. So easily, there's just another guy who's like him who then makes that US team. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then
you,
then, then you're
you're
not
right.
doing
Yeah.
it at that age
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you got another guy straight out of the NCAA
But
who's
one thing
able
I
to run
will
a time.
say, at 22 years old, to be running 26:58, the future's bright, mate. He's coached by
Yeah,
probably the best endurance coach, one of them in the world. You look at what Mike Smith's done with so many of his athletes, and you're just like, phew. I mean, he's in Flagstaff. The guy lives at altitude, has done for the last 4 or 5 years. Like everything going for him. So you do look and you think, this guy be the real deal? Could he be a world beater, or is
yeah.
he due injuries galore over the next few years? Who knows, man? But it was a great race. Gressier as well. I mean, that was just the fastest 10,000 we've ever seen as well. And I was surprised. Like, at 5K, I was like, we're only at halfway. Like, surely men are going to pop. Like, we're going to see men drop. And actually, it shows you the depth of this games. I mean, people moan about this. People don't moan, but we think about how fast those standards are. Well, when 13 men break 27 minutes in the Olympic final, that's why.
Well, we used to see it back when the standards were way slower. Like, but we have a British man like, just getting lapped on lapped. But like that's when they're running slower. Imagine that last night or 2 nights ago. Sorry.
Yeah, what if Farrell and
So
because Tom definitely got lapped that day. But yeah. Whew. Anyway, the men's 10, just incredible racing, and actually was the 5Ks ended up being very, very even 5K splits as well, like pretty much 13:20 and change, 13:20 and change for the 26:43. They obviously
yeah,
slowed in that eighth and ninth K a bit, but yeah, what a race to kind of kick this champs off officially for me.
that's it. I wonder how much attention Jakob was paying to that, or if he's all eyes on the 1500 for now. I'm sure he enjoyed it.
Is you what you think he was watching, thinking about the 5K, or just watching as like a fan?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, potentially. I'm sure. Surely, obviously, he's focused all on the 1500 right now, but like he's gonna run the five no matter what.
Yeah,
Like it's not like if he wins the 15, he's not gonna run it.
I think
So he will be thinking about that, and
I
he
think
and
he's
he will have
going.
seen that race.
For Jakob, that's probably the best outcome that race because all of those blokes ran hard. Anyone doubling back
Mm,
has basically run a PB equivalent. Because although like for some of them it wasn't a P, like Grant Fisher wasn't a PB, the fact it slowed so much in the eighth and ninth K, it was a PB effort.
oh, it's
100.
way harder. Yeah,
Yeah, it's harder than a P. Yeah, harder even. And you think about the emotional high and Whether he has a few drinks, I don't know. Like, these men have lived like monks for the last, 12 months, well, more years, 12 years
Yeah,
probably.
El Bakkali did last time, didn't he?
Yeah. So,
So no, it'd be
yeah,
good. Bring on that 5K. Let's get into those 15s then, mate. Because obviously we've had first round for the men. Obviously Jakob safely through. All the Brits safely through. Did have a little bit of a blip in George Mills, I guess, in the heat. But then he's through on that repechage. So 3 Brits through to those semi-finals, which will be, are they tonight? If you're listening,
yeah, that'd be
Sunday
tonight.
morning.
You're listening now, there tonight. I mean, yeah, you make it. We'll get into this, man. I mean, firstly, Gawley did what he needed to do.
Mm.
Didn't look amazing, wasn't particularly special, but look, just did what he needed to do. And whenever I see someone like not perform that well in the heat, I mean, the Goose, prime example, didn't perform that well. Looked terrible to be honest. The Goose, he actually looked like he was working really hard as well. But I just think back to Josh Kerr in Tokyo, and I'm just like, look, the Americans, they don't travel that well. Um,
Yeah,
Maybe they're just, time zone sluggish, whatever. Like, and with the 1500, the way they just have day on, day off, day on, day off, like they never used to do that. They used to do heat semis and then day off and then final. But day on, day off, it gives athletes a chance to like build into the championships, to acclimatize a little bit longer and stuff. And so I think Nagus will be fine. He will be in a final, especially, mate. We'll get into those semi-final start lists. They are heavily weighted. Heat one is a joke. Heat two is like every man his dog could qualify through that heat, not quite, but heat one is definitely and this is the problem when you don't have fastest losers. The seeding needs to be so good. And quite frankly, I don't know how they've seeded these semi-finals, but semi-final one is so much harder. Jakob, Kerr, 2 Kenyans in there. I haven't got it in front of me, mate, but
I'll get
yeah,
them up for you now, mate. I'll get them up for you now.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree, mate. And I think they must surely, but like based off when we were chatting through them earlier, they must have just done these kind of out of a hat. I can't see any way that is seeded from a
Well, do you know what they've done? I think what they've done
yeah
is seed them off the heat, and obviously Jakob finished
yeah okay yeah
fourth in the heat, so they've gone like winner of heat one goes into semi-final one, winner of heat two goes into semi-final two, and stuff like that. But
yeah.
like,
So I'll just go through some of these now. So in that heat one, Coman, Kerr, Mills, Ingebrigtsen, Germer, Hocker, and Chariot.
yeah, this is Reynolds Cherry, but still he's a 330
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and Coman's a 328 man, ran that in Monaco. Obviously, Kerr and Jakob. It's a shame. You needed to divide. For me, you needed to divide Kerr and Jakob. You need to save
Whereas
that
in the other
race.
one, we're probably only talking about
Go
Timothy
to the other
Chariot,
one.
Hobbs Kessler, Tefera, Nagoose is in there, Gawley's in that one. So I think Gawley's got to be very happy with that
Goalie
draw.
be chuffed. Goalie makes a final without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, yeah, I'm just looking at the second one now. I mean, you have got people like Nordas, seem pretty mediocre all season. Um, Kessler. He said he's had COVID. Is he? He ran a really good US champs. He really did. But is he? I almost think he's better. He's touch and go whether he's a better 800 runner than
Yeah.
1500 runner at the moment. We'll see. This champs will
But
kind
it is
of.
but it is top six. It is top six.
It
So I
is
don't know
toxic.
if we will. I don't know if anyone's going to really miss out though.
Yeah.
Looking at these
No,
because
look. I
I
mean,
think that is quite
and this is something that
yeah
I think is worth talking about the repechage round. Like, by the way, I mean, me and you speak to a lot of people in the sport. I've spoken to a lot of people the last few days, and I don't know anyone who agrees with the repechage round. I don't know anyone who's like, "Oh, this is great." It's been
yeah.
negative, 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 negative. From an angle just saying like, what's the point? There is literally no point. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, that aside, you still get this. I personally think you still get the same men in the final. The 12 best men will find their way to the final. Like always between the 10th, 11th, and 12th runners, like they'll change. But it's a little bit like the Premier League. You get the same 15 teams in the Premier every year, and it's just the bottom five that
Yeah.
changes. The same with the global final. Um, And so yeah, that is what it is. But mate, let's talk about these 15 heats because the drama really was. There's no real drama on like who qualified for the semis, but who didn't. Hall,
Yeah.
Wayne, Adam Spencer, the Aussies having an absolute stinker.
Mara Garcia Romo.
Yeah,
Who else are we
shit.
missing?
329.
Michelle, Sam Tanner.
Yeah, like to
Uh,
not even make it to the semis, those guys. I mean, OAC struggling. What's too much threshold, not enough speed? Maybe. I don't know.
yeah. Who knows,
But
mate? It's
look, mate, I'm just gonna say you called it. You said the when we reviewed the MSD car mile, you said that's a weak field. Laos fell over, and almost won the race. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like Ollie Hall won the race in the end, and like yeah, I kind of when you look back now, you're like yeah, empty car, weak field.
That's it. So, yeah, I mean, and yeah, on the people who did get through though, George Mills obviously didn't quite make it through. He is through, so I'm sure he'll be chuffed with that one. And he has got a chance to kind of still get himself through. He's in that tough heat, but top six, he still has a shot. I just hope he's not too gassed from a British perspective. Like he's had to run hard, obviously once because he didn't make it. Like that's probably the hardest race you can run is when you don't make the even though you're running slower because you've not made it. You're having to give it everything.
Mm.
It's not like a mistake. And then he's had to run 3:33 today. Um, so
I
that's
mean, the
tough.
only thing me and you were saying, like, if you're in your heat and you're coming off it with like, let's say you're coming off it with 200 to go, does a part of you just go, just try again tomorrow? Like, that's why I don't really like
For
this.
me, that's what I don't understand. This I think this year I don't think people are doing that because it's the first one. They don't really
And they always
understand it.
think they
Maybe
can
they don't know how
qualify.
it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a couple of years' time, right? If you're I don't know, if you're a 3:34 guy going into this, why would you not just jog around the heat, right? And then have an easier heat the next day when everyone else is tired.
Yeah, I guess you just weigh up the pros and cons of like trying to bid for the auto spot and have a day off for the semi. Like, but I do think there
But
is.
for them, like making the semi-finals like, would be, and maybe again we're being unfair about because I think we said before, like if it was us, we wouldn't be asked. We'd be like, oh, I'm going home if I get knocked out in the heat, and maybe we are being a bit kind of unfair on elite professional athletes. Like I'm not saying these guys aren't working extremely hard for this, but you've got to pick your way to get through the rounds to see how far you can go, and in the future, it might be the case of yeah, just jog around in 350 and then be in a better place to do it the next day. It seems just a bit backwards to me.
Yeah, yeah, especially
You know,
when
you got to shout out Meslek for getting through as
yeah, shout
well.
out Besley, huge, mate.
Um,
Well done, boy. We
yeah,
like to
so
see that.
excellent result from him.
We like to see that. Yeah. Anyway, so I mean that was Mills's story. I mean, he is playing some weird tactics. Like you know, he's racing like he's Jakob by going to the back and stuff. And like I'm kind of all for that, but I just think, mate, you need to pay closer attention to the front. Like you haven't got like Jakob 300 to go was in probably the worst spot you could ever be in a 1500 in his heat.
Mm.
In the space of 200 meters, he's in a qualifying position. Like, but that's because he's world class. You know, he's the best in the world. You know, him and Kerr. And for me, by the way, watching these heats, no, I've been gassing up Hocker, and like he is my outside chance, and he is like, you know, I don't like to go for the favorite too much. I'm a bit too emotionally attached, and like you know, I think he's been racing well and stuff. But Kerr and Jakob just, dude, the pair of them just look class above. I know Jakob didn't win the heat, didn't dominate, but I mean,
He dominates in his own way, doesn't he?
yeah, he
That's the
does.
thing. He doesn't need to win to dominate.
He
Just in
does.
how he looks,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Both of them. Both of
So
them nearly ran. I think Jakob ran a 64 first lap, Kerr 61 or 62. But from there, they both ran pretty much identical race. You know, they both closed in
yeah,
52 high. They both ran their third lap in 54 high, 55. Like it was just impressive stuff, man. I mean, and they both were in pretty poor conditions, poor positions, sorry, at like
what do
400.
they do in this semi? with each other. The mind games, I
Oh,
cannot wait.
we
They're
saw
going
yeah,
to be looking at each
Kern
other.
Biggin
They're going
last
to be,
season.
yeah, they're going to be going back and forth to each other down that home straight.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because they both adopted. I mean, Kerr not quite as extreme as Jakob, but quite similar tactics. But boy, did Kerr just so much speed, just looked very very good. But anyway, back to my original point, right? Of Mills, he's racing like he's Jakob. I'm like, why are you giving men who are like the same level, if not faster than you, like you know, 10, 15 meters at the start of the race and then more, and then kind of just like at the bell and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's just and then he's trying to like weave his way through that. It seems crazy, but look, he's sticking to his guns, and I guess you kind of have to respect him for that. But yeah,
That's it. I guess if that's the type of athlete he wants to be, then the more you do it at a high level, then eventually
yeah,
you get there, So Mills doesn't strike me as the person who wants to come and be a and ran, like he wants to come and he wants to do well. Like he's got that confidence, he's got that aura about him. So I guess he's just trying to put that into place. But I get what you're saying, mate. It's one thing to do it at British Champs, and another to do that at the Olympic Games.
yeah. I would say as well, like
So
what one of the things we've seen a lot in the media and stuff before the champs is how dedicated he is and stuff, but they all are at this level. Like, dude, they all live and breathe it. Like, look at those Kenyans, mate. Like, they live the simplest life going. Like I,
mm,
I don't think that's just because you're super super dedicated, it doesn't always translate to being super super successful. Like, and there's guys who like approach the sport very differently and are just as good. So but yeah, that was the men's 1500. I mean, any other stories really? We don't want to go too in detail. Obviously, we've got semi-finals to look forward to tonight. I think sometimes I get more excited for the semis in the final because we can just basically talk shit and predict who's going to win.
mate, we've been saying all year it's going to be Kerr anyway, so
Whereas in
it's
the
fine.
final we just get silenced and we're like, okay, Kerr won. Yeah.
So no, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, I'm sure you guys listening, watch them yourselves. Well, watch them if you could with kind of the coverage flicking in and out. Let's move on to those to the women's in the 800. Obviously, Keely, Riki, Gill, all safely through. Did we expect anything else?
Nah, I personally didn't. Yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, the women's 800. I mean, the heats at least. I guess because our like, who we're looking out for. These three women are like some of the best in the world. I mean, Keely and Riki, they
Yeah,
really are. Phoebe Gill is gonna be, and I think Phoebe Gill. I just, by the way, looked at the semi-finals, and she's in a semi with Mary Moore and Natoya Gould. And I'm just thinking, fantastic. Like, boom, Moore, do your thing. Take Gill through in 55, 56. Gill can hang on. She's done it time and time again. Natoya Gould's obviously a bit of a front runner as well. I don't think Gill could be in a better semi-final, to be honest with you. I just thought epic. That's fast. Gill, follow Mora, take it on when you need to take it on. Like, obviously don't let her. I think Mora went 26, 30, 32, 30 in her heat, like just all over the gaff. So don't let her do that, but at least let her take that kind of first lap, first 300. But yeah, and I think just because we kind of only care about the Brits in the women's 800, obviously like it was a bit of a procession, the heats. Keely looked good. I mean, Ricky, they just all look good, to be honest. I don't think there was too much to take away.
yeah. I think you're bang on with kind of Phoebe Gill's heat because the 800 it is top two qualify and then two fastest
Yeah.
losers. So I, I think she's absolutely fine in that. Like she's gonna have a heat that's not messing around, and they're the ones that you got to watch out for. When you're messing around at 2 minute pace
Oh,
in an 800, like
horrible.
so many women can come into it. So it's good. All things going through. Look, we think we're going to have three women in the final, which obviously gives great chances at multiple medals. So we will see that one. But again, yeah, not really much to report on there. I think Keely, much like Josh Kerr, I mean, obviously they're the two that the Brits are all kind of looking out for. Business as usual, got the job done, looking good, um, looking pretty unstoppable at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, she is. Full of confidence as well, and I just think so mature and like. Do you know the only thing is, I'm just like, how does she run that final? How do you run the final? That's the like I've got no doubt. It's kind of like a Jakob situation, right? She's the best.
Mm.
It's the
Well,
Olympic Games for a reason. Oh, she is the best. But it's the Olympic
no,
Games.
no, I mean, but that's where I wouldn't compare it to Jakob because I don't think Jakob's the best because he's not the world champ.
He's consistently the best. Like if they race 365 days a year, he'd win 364.
But that's not the sport.
No, I know it's not a sport, but I'm just saying,
If
like,
right at the end of this week, if he's won, fine, I will say he's the best because that's how our sport works.
mhm. Mate,
So
the men's 1500, it's just,
it's sickening, isn't it? I can't
oh,
wait.
it's just everything you want, man. Just everything you want. But yeah, anyway, back to Keely. It's just like I'm just going to be very intrigued how she runs the final. Will she go to the front and dictate? Will she let Mary Moore do her thing and then like blitz by? I just don't know. I think it's a nerve-wracking place to be because I think eyes will be on her, and yeah, unlike a Diamond League where I do feel like sometimes in Diamond Leagues people run it in. They want to win, but it's not quite the same as
Mm.
like a championship. And so I just feel like it's just just that little bit
And we
more.
always have upsets. I think that's the thing as well. It's that it goes for the prediction contest, like, and I think that's why we all love doing it. Like we even put our entries in. We love seeing your guys' entries, people who message us and telling us who they're going for and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And people get really into it. And if it was easy, like it's never always goes to every single athlete
no,
who is the number one.
just looking at him,
So
we've had a
this is always a chance.
record number of entries for the
Yeah.
prediction contest, so that's going to be a lot of sieving through for you. But no, you're right, mate. It's going to be mesmerizing. So women's 800. Let's move along. Because this is a long one. I mean, women's 100. Julian Alfred. Yeah, fantastic. What more can we say? Sha'Carri. It's just going to be a great sprint documentary, isn't it? That comes out at the end of the summer, autumn time, because obviously Jamaica's had a bit of controversy getting into the stadium. I think Sha'Carri as well. This was pre the semi-final, I think. The Fraser Price pulls out, obviously Shericka Jackson pulls out. So actually, like what was going to be a really good matchup wasn't quite the kind of women's 100 final we would have liked. But yeah, Julian Alfred. I mean, she wasn't too much of a talker in her post-race interview either, was she? She was pretty thought she'd be elated. It was kind of like she'd just done a routine performance. So yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, some people that's how they run their best, don't they? Just
yeah,
business as usual. What I would say about that is actually, and I'm someone who is often taken a piss out of people who said that a Netflix documentary would solve the issues in our sport. What I would say, I was a lot more invested in that women's 100-meter final having watched sprint. So
100%. Yeah, I mean, were you team Shikari or were you team basically rest of the world?
rest of the world for me. Yeah, absolutely. But
What I
that's
would
good.
say,
That's good. Like,
what I would say is Shikari like was just like a very good sportsman or sportswoman. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like she obviously straight over congratulates Alfred, like the way she carried herself after that loss. And I kind of rate that. Like obviously it's all talk beforehand, but then after you like once the race is run, um, once the finals run, it's and it's kind of been settled. Yeah, she was gracious and
mm,
it was quite cool. But you are right, like definitely more invested in the sprints.
yeah.
Now we just look forward
But I
to
was team rest of the world, not in like a I hate Shakira. It was like she's almost like the villain of that event,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and
fair.
I just want to support like against the villain, but it doesn't mean I'm like against her. That was just I
Yeah,
guess, but and that's what we need. Like I'm the same. Like I want it's weird. Like I want Lyles to get beat in the two, just because I think that's the same way I always want Jakob to get beat. But it doesn't mean I don't. When Jakob does win, I'm always still like get gassed by it. So it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
matchups all over.
yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. So then, yeah, it was another great session of athletics. I think tomorrow night is just going to be off the charts because obviously we've got those 15 semis, but we've also got the men's 100 final, women's 800 semis, and obviously the 100 semi final, and some 400 heats to get that evening session started. Also tomorrow morning, Steeple girls get their campaign underway. Amy Pratt, Lizzie Bird in the heats. They go off at what 10:05 local time, so it's 9:05 our time. So I'm sure many of you would have watched that by the time you're listening. But now time to talk a little bit of news. Obviously, Whiteman out, Giles in for the 800. This is the exact reason I don't think we should have exemptions at trials when it is 4 weeks before the major championships because it if you are ill, I low-key think you should race. That's just poor timing. Unfortunate. That's sport. Like you can't change the dates. And then if you are injured 4 weeks before major championships, I've said it before, at this level, if your injury is that serious, you can't race on it, then I personally think that you're not going to be ready for the major champs, or you're not going to be 100% fit for the major champs. And of course, Whiteman, very unfortunately, it looks like he posted a great session. He did 4 4s with long recovery, 48, 49, 50, 50. That was a week out from his first round. So he's in prime, prime, that is serious shape, by the way. That is a very, very impressive session. But obviously he's hurt his hamstring, teared a hamstring or something like that. So at what cost? Was he rushing? Who knows? But yeah, this is why I just think, yeah, exemptions, they just shouldn't happen because now Giles, poor bloke, I think he's been camping with his kids from what I've seen on
Well,
Instagram.
that's it. And he's also gone chasing times left, right, and centre because I'm sure he was annoyed by the British Champs result, annoyed by the selection, and he's like, right, I need to go to a Diamond League and prove to everyone that I'm a world class athlete. So yeah, it's just yeah, you're bang on, mate. It's not fair. Um, I think the only way you
But
could
it
do
is
it
so
is if
tricky
like this
because
is if there's no one else eligible though for me, if that
yeah,
makes sense. Like say there was a steeple, right, and say Phil Norman had the time and then couldn't race at the trials, and the only person you can pick is that person.
you're like, yeah, 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 or like
Do you know what
10,000.
I mean? Like,
Paddy's like, yeah,
yeah,
the only guy who could have gone. He doesn't do Highgate for
yeah,
whatever
like,
reason, medical exemption. Yeah, but I feel like medical exemptions for me are okay if, like, for example, next year Worlds is going to be British Champs. Obviously, I don't think it's got a date yet, but the World Champs is going to be right at the end of August. It's going to be like 25th of August, something like that. So if the trials is the end of June still, you've got 8 weeks. And I feel like medical
mm,
exemptions, that's more time for the athlete. Like, fair enough. If they're injured now, like they can still get in races, probably do a few races on the circuit. They can probably still prepare pretty well. But when the trials is about 4 weeks before it all kicks off, I think you're pushing it. So
yeah.
anyway,
I think you're right, but at the same time, even then, mate, I think it's got to depend on the on the issue because, like you mentioned, it's say you've got a little bit of illness in your heat, right? You've got to go out and you've got to make it through anyway. So, and we're not talking about events where we're not where we're well, British Athletics have said they only want to take athletes who are going to go and have kind of medal
yeah,
potential as it is.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they should
yeah,
be able to make their British champs
yeah,
team. You
yeah,
should be able to
yeah,
qualify in the British champs if you're
yeah.
capable of doing that,
I
even if
mean,
you're a little bit
mhm,
off it.
mhm. I mean, yeah, I mean, talking of illness as well, Keely won the European Championships with a cold. Like,
Well, quite.
like illness does suck, but if you are, like you said, if you are medal potential or top eight potential, which is pretty much all the British team is now, like you could probably get through
And
this.
we spoke to Kerr last year, after he won the world champs, and he said, look, he said, if you leave no stone unturned, the likelihood of you getting injured or ill is very, very small.
Yeah,
He spoke
it's
about the precautions he put in place to
yeah.
ensure that actually there was going to be
Yeah,
no reason he didn't line
yeah, to
up
be
on
fair,
that
I've seen
start
a lot
line
of
in shape.
I've seen a lot of athletes in with masks and stuff actually. And to be fair, I don't know why we're talking about illness because obviously Whiteman wasn't ill, he was injured, and like I said, just to
It's in
finish up,
general though we're
yeah,
talking, isn't
just to
it,
finish
about
up
the
that
the
point though,
selection. Yeah,
just finish up that point because he's a world champion. I think that does make it very difficult. I mean, how can you leave a world champion off the team now in 2025? Now he's got kind of 2 years where he hasn't managed to qualify, and I think. Oh, sorry, not qualify. He hasn't managed to kind of make a start line. I think, they would potentially think twice about that decision because that would be 3 years down the line. But obviously, the world champs are
yeah.
still only 2 years away. So, anyway, man, I mean,
Mm.
Giles is going to get his campaign going soon, next couple of days. So let's see how he rock and rolls. Should be exciting. So, mate, you've got some news here, which I don't think is confirmed. I haven't seen it confirmed on any sources, but here we go.
Yeah, I've just seen on Twitter, literally just before we start recording, that Clara Evans has been called in to run the marathon. So that means she is replacing one of the the other women. You presume we can't take four. Um, replacing someone
I don't think it's
in
Thackeray.
there, but
I don't. Yeah, if this is true,
yeah,
I don't think it's Thackeray.
no, I think it is true. I think it is true. It's
It's either Rose
oh,
Harvey.
I've got info now. It looks like Charlotte Purdue
Oh shit.
because on the entries now, Clara Evans, Rose Harvey, and Kelly Thackeray still on there. I'm literally looking at it right now. So British Flex have not said this, but that is what these entries are saying.
What?
I'm seeing a screenshot of it
How have you
now.
found this? How have you found this in British athletics haven't announced it? Like their social presence is shocking. So bad. And we'll get onto that now, actually. So anyway, so we think Clara Evans, bloody hell, I mean, it's one thing Giles getting called up to the 800. Like, imagine getting called up to a marathon if you haven't done marathon preparation. Like,
Yeah,
has she prepared for a hilly course? Like, has she done heat training? Like, oof. Not that you
we
have to
can
do
only
this,
hope that
but
we can only hope that she was in the know of around kind of because I'd imagine she would have known that she was a reserve. You have to be on a reserve list, right? Previously, and you can only imagine that she was kind of pre-warned. It was preempty to her that there's a chance. There's always a chance, you know.
yeah.
And we obviously hope that she prepared, kind of expecting like just you have to be ready just in case, you know.
Yeah, that's rough. Training for something like that with like no confirmation. But if that is the case, then that's heavily paid off. I guess it helps Chris Jones, her coach, maybe would have had some
Yeah,
reserves there.
we'd imagine he was somewhat in the know, but obviously we don't know how much because it would all depend on how much if it is Purdue how much they give away because unless you are so like Whiteman would have had to be I believe the rules normally are he'd have had to be keep showing form because he got in
Mm.
on a medical exemption.
Mate, that is
If that
that
makes
that is
sense.
rough
Whereas
for
if you get
Purdue.
auto selected, I don't think you have to keep kind of sending through like session splits or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that is a rough one for Purdue, man. Oof. Don't know if I'd just kind of run on an injury at that point. It depends what the injury is, how bad it is. Like we say, we just don't know enough about this yet. But anyway, man. Yeah, let's just talk a little bit of nerdy stuff about kit because the Uganda kit, by the way, oof, that's the best
Mate,
kit
do you
by
know what we haven't
far.
spoken about? We'll go on to you about Ugandan kit, yeah. We haven't spoken about the GB kit, mate. How do you feel about this Navy?
It's dead, mate. I've struggled to spot our athletes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what,
And it doesn't look like a British kit, does it? That's
mate?
the thing for
No,
me.
no.
It looks like a training kit. It looks like like a warm-up kit
The problem
or
is, I think obviously Adidas make these kits, and like France have obviously got that brighter blue, and we would literally probably look just like France if we had that color. And typically
yeah.
we are, but I'm just too used to us. I think pretty much every Olympics we've watched. I mean,
It's
you
very
know,
white normally.
it's always
Our
it's
our
always
kit
white, like
for the
'08, and
Olympics.
then
Yeah.
'08 was so clean, man. Oh, that was such a good kit in Beijing. But like the trim was just a slightly, red and blue, and then the rest of it was just clean white.
Mm.
That was a nice kit. But obviously like 2012 and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't look right, man. But yeah, there's the GB kit, best kit out there though. It's got to be Team Uganda. That kit is absolute fire. What is pissing me off actually with the kits is like there's too many variations. Like whether you're wearing the speed suit, whether you're wearing the leotard, whether
Yeah,
you're wearing a
completely
vest and
different color.
shorts.
Yeah,
Oh mate, it's just
yeah,
there's too many variations, man. And like Kenya have got a plain red vest, and then they've also got like that red and bright yellow, and it's like the same vest but just different color scheme. I just
yeah.
don't rate. It's annoying. Like just
You wouldn't get away
uniform.
with that in football, would you?
No,
They would not be allowing that. Yeah.
they need to talk about branding and sponsorship. They need to just clamp down on the regulations of bloody kits, for God's sake.
Mm.
But anyway, man, just finally before we finish up today, um, obviously we're gonna have pretty much an episode a day. We've got some exciting guests coming up as well. We're gonna really break it down. I think I mentioned that before, but we should probably mention the British Athletics European road running selection policy.
Scandal. Can we call it that?
Oh, it's been kicking off, man.
It has, and thank you for all of you who have messaged us because I think it's interesting. We weren't obviously not going to name any names. It's interesting to see how many high profile athletes, coaches, agents, managers, whatever, like high profile people in the sport have something to say about some of these things. And obviously, look, I'm not going to stand here and say who these people are, but it's very interesting when we get the responses we do on our kind of Instagram to see the sorts of people who are not impressed
Do you know what
um,
though? I think
by a lot of these things.
once the news digested a little bit, I do think about it. I'm like, British athletics, we throw them a lot of hate, but this is a new competition. It didn't exist. It's going to be the first one. And like, how many competitions can BA fund full teams? Like, there's so many competitions now. Like, you have the World fucking Relays in the Caribbean, which is next year again. Like, that's how people are going to qualify for 2025. So they'll probably send 2 million sprinters over there. You've obviously got the world champs. You've got like Eurocross. You've got world crosses. You've got mountain running. You've got road running. You've got this world half marathon champs. You've got bloody the European half marathon champs. Like, yeah, you've got the European Cup 10,000, which I think is next year. Like, there's actually a lot of, you've got all the junior stuff as well. The World Juniors is in Peru and European Juniors, European under 23s. Like, there is a lot of stuff, and it does come at a big cost. And the European road running, I just think that brands, if you're an athlete, like, it might be a step forward. You should maybe think about negotiating costs to major champs because I don't think it will happen at a global level. And I think actually, it's going to give athletes what we want is we moan that they haven't taken full teams to Olympic Games. I think their way around this is just going to be if you hit our standard, if you run the world qualifying time, you'll go for free. If you don't run the world qualifying time, but you get an invite, sweet, pay your own way. And isn't that what we've been begging for? Um,
Yeah, I think what you're saying in theory is sort of almost there, but I think for me, and I think what a lot of people are very disappointed with is the insistence on making the cost so high. And we can only imagine that is to kind of, I guess, is to provide athletes with exactly what they would get if they were being fully funded. But at the same time, if you're asking someone to self-fund, I don't think they should be. Essentially, I think what people are implying is that, or suggesting, and I think it's probably true, is that some of that money is subsidising British athletics costs for staffing to send to these meets.
yeah, I don't agree with that either. But then again, like if you're an athlete, would you not want to be in the race hotel? Would you not want to benefit from the transport to and from the venue? Would you not want to benefit from, I don't know, if they put on specific food at these things compared to like having to go dine out and try and find restaurants? Like maybe not. Maybe some athletes are a lot more chill, but um
I
like
think obviously all athletes would like that, but if it's £1,100 for one race,
yeah. Yeah, that's a big cost, and
It's a
I
huge
presume they're only
cost.
going to be there 3 nights, maybe at the European Road Running Champs, maybe 3 nights max, probably.
Yeah.
Um, get there the day before, stay the day, and leave the day after, probably. So yeah, I mean, obviously those figures, yeah, probably need to be ironed out, but at the same time, if you qualified and you started a crowd fund, or you asked your sponsors, or you asked um your club, like how good would it be for your club to say, yeah, we're
Mm.
paying the way for our athletes? I mean, how many clubs in the UK can honestly say, yeah, we've got an athlete to an Olympic Games, we've got an athlete to a Worlds, whatever. Very few. So yeah, could your club part fund you? I do think there is ways we could think outside the box. And look, the way I just see it, I just feel like athletes just shouldn't rely on our governing body for anything. That's kind of where I'm at with the whole thing. I have been for a while, and so I'm just like, well, find other ways. Do you know what I mean? And
I
so
think definitely there are things you can do, and the points you make are good. I just think we run the risk of making this sport very kind of focused on people in privileged positions. Um,
yeah, people in privileged positions or people on funding. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
and because
okay.
it's like okay, say I'm an athlete who's of a level, right? Versus another athlete of a similar level, and I'm like, okay, I can make this European road running champs, but I'm actually like, I can't afford £1,100,
Yeah.
whereas
You're gonna
someone
earn.
else
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a better position, like, and this is not me like kind of knocking athletes who are in a position, but whether it's can ask mum and dad, can
mm.
get funding from wherever, have a sponsor, and that's not fair.
But
That is not
yeah,
fair.
and on that, are you gonna aim for a championship like the European Road Running Champs, where you're
Mm.
gonna have to pay 1,100 quid, or are you gonna go, do you know what, Eurocross actually, GB value that, and I don't have to pay, so I'll just focus on Eurocross. So what you might even get is really, obviously, selection criteria wouldn't allow for it, but just like watered down fields, and actually people
But
being
we,
turned off and no one even going for it. So GB not even taking the team anyway.
mm. But it's
Never
quite
going.
similar to what we get sometimes with England best, for example, like the
Yeah, for
whole
sure.
expression of interest thing, which is
Oh,
kind of tends to be certain people that know the races are coming up,
yeah, yeah,
rather than actually the best athletes that England
yeah,
have to offer, and then we
yeah,
just work down the list.
yeah.
Like we should, like for an England competition, you should go to. I don't know. I'm trying to think who's the best. You should go to a Jack Rowe, for example, first, right, and then you work your way down the list. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that should be the way because it gives the representation the kind of credit,
Mm.
but behind getting that England best, for example, rather than it being certain people who know when to put expression of interest in for
Yeah.
or who can fund themselves, etc. Which is it's a very dangerous game you start playing, and
Yeah,
it's
and
not
where's
quite
it,
right.
do we find ourselves in 2032, 8 years down the line, in an absolute mess, and the whole fucking team's having to fund to go to
Well, that's it to a Tokyo Olympics, for example,
that wouldn't
because
happen,
that's just the
but
way we've gone.
yeah.
You don't know, it spirals out
I
of
don't know, they
control.
get they get funding and stuff for it, don't they? I just think what they're struggling with is
Yeah,
like these governing bodies keep putting on new meets, and I think they're going, at what point do we just get a bit picky and choosy? And at what point do we go, look, all we care about is European on the track, European on the cross, world on the track, world on the cross, boom. Like,
I think fine. You do that right. Say they want to prioritize that. You say that's absolutely fine. But what we will do is we will let you compete in a Great Britain Best. Okay, so we'll give you the kit for free, but you have to go there on your own and decide how you want to do it. So if you want to stay in a hostel and drive there yourself, like people go to Ordegem all the
mm,
time in Belgium, right?
mm,
But don't make them fork out and pay for British Flex physio and
yeah,
etc. etc. etc.
true. Anyway, there was, yeah, I agree with this. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will as well. There was one more drama to this announcement, was the fact that the trial is going to be Great North, and it's going to be the 5K and stuff with at the Newcastle 5K or whatever, like it was last year. But I think they released this last week. and they've given like athletes like 4 or 5 weeks. So again, like there's a bit of drama there. Obviously, it's just like another kind of just poor move.
Particularly with the Olympics, like athletes are shutting down their
Um,
seasons.
yeah, just to release it this
Like,
late on is a bit of a shame. But anyway, we'll have more on that post Olympics. We will just quickly, maybe before we finish up, just want to talk about those world standards. They've got quicker again. We expected that. I mean, we're now looking on the men's side, 144.5, 333.0, 1301. Jesus Christ. And 27.00. I think that's part of the reason Gressier and was celebrating so much.
yeah,
Um,
sorted.
because he's like, yeah, I can go to the world champs. Whew. Um, and then 2:06.30 for the marathon. We knew that was coming. Steeple stays the same, 8:15. And then for the women, 1:59.00. So you're gonna have to be a 1:58 girl. It's kind of crazy. 4:01.5, down from 4:02. Um, yeah, loads of women will get that at the Olympics. 14:50. So cut that a couple seconds and wait for it. 30:20 for the 10,000. Fuck. That is insane. And then 2:23.30 for the marathon, and they've reduced the steeple again, 9:18 as we expected. But yeah, whew. So standards getting quicker, just as we expect.
Yeah, and I think look, after last time when everyone was like, "Ah, these are crazy. What's the point?" I think I think we know what's going to happen. Athletes are going to step up to the plate, and they're gonna show up and run these times. Oh,
Yeah,
obviously that might not mean 3 people in every event run those times, but I think on the whole, athletes will step up and run those times. But again, what we are still doing is we're still calling on British athletics to select people based off world rankings if they are outside those times, because it is one of the reasons world athletics are making the times faster to put more emphasis on the rankings, not just to make people run quicker.
yeah. And this it's just a vicious cycle though, because you're ranking points, especially at like worlds and Europeans, like, and that's what's a shame because if you are a Brit and you get to go to the Olympics, get to go to worlds, and you sneak a semi-final,
For a
or you
repechage
or you
round, for
or you
example.
sneak, let's say you sneak a 5,000 final or something, your points are just, really, really good. Um, anyway, man, I guess we'll finish there. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We'll be reviewing those 1500s. One more thing. Obviously, the Norwegian won the decathlon. Jakob goes, Norwegian is the best country in the world at everything. Congrats, Marcus Ruth. I love the guy.
Yeah, we'll finish on that one, shall we? I'm sure a lot of people can't wait to see that Britain is the best at 1500-meter running. So
Oh, yeah.
thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you very soon.